Let's dig into the world of color. There are two primary color spaces, RGB, which stands for red, green, and blue. That is the primary color space of your monitor or projectors or television. CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which is the primary color space for all output devices, your inkjet printers, your color laser printers, printing presses. In fact, with the new dark user interface built into Photoshop, it can be difficult to see the black against the black. So here is a little trick. Right-click, or if you are on a Mac touchpad and you don't have a right mouse button, hold down your Control key and click. Now Command or Control, and I can choose a light gray, or ideal for the print world is medium gray and neutral gray to look at your images. Now, even though this image was made up of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, by plugging in a 100% black, a 100% yellow with no black for each one, and filling them in Photoshop, it's still displaying it technically in RGB color space because I am looking at it on my monitor. So, to make this truly a CMYK image, I have to take a look at channels and see where, firstly, the red information lies. There is a little red here in cyan and magenta, and some even in the black when it gets converted. Blacks aren't necessarily a 100% black ink. They have undercolors, colors like magenta and yellow and cyan that make them richer. In the green, these will be converted. So your cyan magenta again, and your black again, and finally in the blue, these will be converted. So if I go to Image, Mode, CMYK Color, it's telling me that I have US Web Coded, which is the out-of-the-box factory settings for RGB to CMYK conversions. They're just warning you this may not be your intent. It would be nice of this, and call your print shop to find out what you should be using. I am simply going to click OK, because that's what most users do. They just click OK, and now I am committed to my cyan plate, my magenta plate, my yellow plate, and my black plate. And if I save and close this file, I get a conversion that I cannot get back. I lose some tones even though you go from 3 colors up to 4. You would think you get the ability to reproduce more, but RGB is shooting at your eye. You can make 16 million colors in RGB depending on your printing press in your printing conditions, or the stock of paper that you are using on your inkjet, or the inks that you are buying. You might get far fewer colors printing in cyan, magenta, yellow, and black because you are committed to that black portion, and lights actually reflecting off the paper to your eyes is not being projected directly at you. If I undo this, you will notice the file size in RGB was 900K. If I redo that, it's grown to 1.7 MB. That's because every color channel adds to the file size. I will undo for now, and here is the most radical difference in going from RGB to CMYK. If I just undo and redo, these colors don't move a lot. You might see no shift. On my screen, I see this subtle move in the magenta, but nothing radical. However, if I click on the RGB and I go to Image, Mode, CMYK Color, I get the same warning, which says this is ideal for a web press with coated glossy stock of paper. I will click OK, and there is a radical move. If I undo and redo, your blues get muddy. You really can't produce that rich Windows title bar blue in the CMYK world. Mixing cyan, magenta doesn't make that Windows blue. You actually have to purchase a branded color like a Pantone color to get that vibrant shade. Just doesn't exist. The greens get all, and your reds might shift towards orange or pink. So if I undo or redo, Control Z or Command Z, you could see a before and after. Red is not so bad. Green and blue are very disappointing. So today, I work wholly in an RGB workflow. My inkjet color lasers do a beautiful RGB to CMYK conversion to print well on those devices. If I go to a printing press, I check with my print shop and see what color settings they would like in Photoshop. And actually, I convert to CMYK when I PDF that where my files are smaller and they work for web print, mobile, and tablet publishing, and I check my colors. Even though I work in RGB all the time, if I am working on a job that goes to a printing press, I check my colors by going to View and Proof Colors. Proof Colors shows me what it will be when the PDF converted to CMYK, or when I go to Photoshop and go to Image Mode, CMYK. This way I can correct knowing where I am going. Now the last little demonstration I want to give you is why the color settings matter so much on an image. This is an RGB image, and I could see my red, green, and blue plates, but I am going to convert it twice using 2 different color profiles for printing presses. You can try this test on your own, but you may need to pause and rewind and practice through the couple times until it makes sense. Firstly, I will use the factory default, Image, Mode, CMYK Color, and I will click OK. I can click Don't Show Again if I don't want to see that every time, and I will use History to make a new document out of this so I can compare it to a different group of settings. So, here's my first new document called CMYK Color. I hit Command 0, Control 0 to fit in window, and I will close my RGB and CMYK examples so I can tell what's going on. Now I am going to undo the conversion to CMYK Color and change my color settings. Edit, Color Settings, and I will use a different profile. I will use one that will show a bit more of a radical change. I am going to go to Newsprint stock. Newsprint can't carry as much ink as sheet fed and web presses that are designed for higher quality. So if I click OK on this, and you wouldn't want to leave that setting, but this is for illustration, and then I go to Image Mode, CMYK Color, that tells me this time I am on Newsprint. I will click OK again, and here is where you will see a noticeable difference. Window, Arrange, 2 up vertical to see them side by side. Initially I noticed this image looks a bit richer, especially in the auburn of my hair, and the pinks just look more true. But if I click on this image and choose my black plate and click on the one I used Newsprint for and click my black plate, the black is far lighter. Newsprint can't hold as much ink, meaning my contrast is good. Then I will check out the other colors. I will click on the Newsprint version in yellow and the US web coded in yellow, and again a radical difference in the detail and tone and amount of color that carried through to the image. I will go back to CMYK on both, and this is just a brief introduction to the differences between RGB and CMYK. It's important to know, always check with your print shop. See if they have color settings they recommend for their specific presses and the paper you are printing on.